I guess I have to make some sort of a clarification video here, because there's been a recent uptick, in the numbers of subscriptions to my channel and to my videos. I'm not sure why that happened. I suppose somebody posted my video on some website or something. So I want to make it clear from the very outset that I don't share the libertarian viewpoint at all. So I am not a supporter of Ron Paul. I'm not a supporter of his economic viewpoints, although I do support his standpoints on American foreign policy and our completely wrong-headed dreams of grandeur in terms of American hegemony all over the world. I do agree with him on that point. This said, I would never agree with his economic viewpoints, period. So if you want to call it something ideological, okay, I'm much closer to Bernie Sanders or Dennis Kucinich than I am to Ron Paul. This said, it might be very interesting to have actually some honest debate in this country, which is completely missing from the entire spectrum. And to have somebody like Ron Paul and Bernie Sanders as legitimate candidates out there, something which, in our current climate will never happen. Because then you would actually get to hear the different ideologies out there, as opposed to some fake middle ground which is being peddled by our mainstream media. Neither of these candidates, by the way, and I'm talking about Ron Paul and perhaps Bernie Sanders. Bernie Sanders isn't a candidate, neither is Dennis Kucinich. But let's just say these viewpoints out there, once they would actually be set on equal footing, in terms of actual debates, we could have a national discussion about where we want our country to go. But that kind of discussion is not going to take place as long as the corporate oligarchy, which is essentially in control of global politics at this point, that discussion cannot be had anymore. It is too late for that. The window, so to speak, of opportunity for free speech was lost some time ago. And this entire notion of democracy is basically being destroyed because it never had a chance. Democracy, is a good thing. It's a really good thing, as long as there isn't any mob rule involved in it. This is the one thing that our founding fathers, some of them at least, not all of them, I might add, understood from the beginning, as well as various other thinkers, going way back, to European and even Middle Eastern thought. We're at a point in history where sensible discussions are outdroned by media spectacle, especially in the Western world, all around us. So, you know, the perfect example for this would be, you know, somebody like Donald Trump coming onto the political stage and making his little splash. I mean, it is so utterly ridiculous at this point that you can do one of two things. Or three things you could do. Okay, so let's suppose you're a pragmatic person and you're just going to keep voting for the lesser evil, regardless of what party you belong to. So you believe that in that party, and you're going to keep voting for the lesser evil. That's one thing people could do. Another thing would be to go completely against the grain, you know, which is what in the mainstream would now be called political radicalism, you know, kind of a revolutionary sentiment, which is taking shape mostly on the ideological right of the political spectrum rather than on the left. It's there in the left, it just isn't heard. Or your other option would be to tune out from politics altogether, to completely disengage and say, look, all of this is complete bullshit. It doesn't have anything to do with me anymore. It's not my personal problem. I'm just gonna focus on my immediate circumstance, my family, in order to keep them safe, and so on. Now, this is precisely the viewpoint which is being put out there by the libertarians. And I do not agree with that viewpoint. Because once you eliminate the very idea of a larger society and the very idea of a private citizen versus everyone else, okay, then you've already lost basically the very premise of civilization to start with. Now, this is just my personal viewpoint. I don't want to offend anybody on here, but you know, it's part of our human makeup, you know, to withdraw from controversy when controversy gets larger and larger, and then you have another segment of society which wants that confrontation at all costs. So I guess in a sense you could call myself an idiotic pragmatic, because I don't want confrontation at all costs. I do not. But there has to be a certain line drawn when you will no longer just keep sitting on your ass, staring at your television, you know, listening to news, and keep hoping that everything is going to be okay in the end. You know, my own parents in Germany, this is Nazi Germany, they believed in all the propaganda too. All the populism. They believed in it wholeheartedly until it affected them very, very personally. And then the cover was blown. So, don't become too much of an adherent of any kind of a political ideology. Just try to do what you think is right, regardless of any party affiliation. And just because, you know, millions and millions of people now take up the banner once again and scream patriotism or whatever, don't let that bother you one bit. Always keep thinking for yourself. Always question your own motives as well. And stand up against injustice when you see it.